All right, so today I think I'm going to try to tackle the pretty gritty topic of AI, and it's going to be a bit tricky to do since there's so many areas that one can dive into. But lately, all of these outlets of vlogging and self-reporting and everything in between has been talking about ChatGPT, its impacts on society, different ways to regulate it. I'm seeing all kinds of different academic papers come out in relation to into ChatGPT, and then speculation on things like how it's going to impact the industry of software engineering. So I should first start off by saying that if I go to some of my specific ChatGPT usages, that has been immensely helpful when digging into both doing new code base starts. So this was an example chat where I was trying to get it to help me build an Electron app. I also had, let's see, I also had it tackle for me a really complicated, in my opinion, or at least hard to source knowledge for problem dealing with LAMP server setups and PHP. So I think it's been immensely helpful here. I would notice and say that there were times for sure where it would give me advice that just outright didn't work, but you have to kind of communicate back with ChatGPT and just tell ChatGPT it doesn't work, and it will try to work around it. And the other thing that I'd really mention out of ChatGPT really is to do with it. It simply requires you to have some contextual knowledge of what you're doing. You really cannot progress super far, in my opinion, unless you know how to push back, where to push back. And I just don't personally see anything that ChatGPT has produced as exhibiting ability to do more than create sample code. So if we look at separately, there is this GitHub Copilot extension, which in this tab it will work, but it's this idea that I have autocomplete, for things that just make sense. But I think where this starts to become limited would be like if I asked it to write a function point that say stores a file on Google Drive. It just really wouldn't be able to do much for us. So I have found that GitHub Copilot tends to do a better job of offering up suggestions for coding, like as for instance, you're actually authoring code in one of your files. So for instance, I think I had come up with this function before. If we came up with something that was like get record from index, and we were in an existing class that queries MySQL databases, we might expect it to come up with code that relates to what's already in the file. So that can be how the tools for ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot, that might change and evolve over time, and even at a quick clip. But I'd say that that's how they're currently impacting the world of software. I think ChatGPT, if I hadn't already mentioned, excellent at receiving error messages and knowing what to do with it. I would say much more than Stack Overflow. It's excellent at producing boilerplate code. And then the GitHub Copilot is a bit stronger at actually looking at the code that you're writing at that moment and providing suggestions. And these interactions, I think, with these AIs tend to replace humans better, because I think most people just don't have the patience or the corpus of technical knowledge to be that technical, that broadly. So I think that they tend to do better on that. But I think there are instances where if you need to look at overall approach and strategy, those are sometimes better answered by Stack Overflow. So for instance, I was trying to understand the communication and models for security on these new Chrome extension specs that are being rolled out over the next year. And I just wasn't able to bang away at ChatGPT to get it to produce a valuable answer for me. So I had to remember to go search for Stack Overflow as well in that particular case. So to summarize, I don't really see the claim being made that ChatGPT on an auto GPT, meaning like you have chatbots talk back and forth to each other until they iterate toward a solution. I just don't see either of those methods producing anything very worthwhile in terms of replacing the software engineer's job function. Where these assistants do seem to excel, and I think ChatGPT is more compelling than GitHub Copilot, is they do seem to excel at taking exact error messages and debugging them, as well as providing the equivalent of troubleshooting support in terms of like gaining your exact context and then having far more patience than any person ever would to step through technical issues in a variety of different ways. So you could, for instance, say to the ChatGPT that, hey, this solution still isn't working, and it would try to find different ways to explain what's going on so that you can debug. So it's definitely a worthy tool that I don't think will go away. It's a worthy tool to add to the tool belt. It's still different than Stack Overflow, and even in the class of tools like GitHub Copilot, that tool is I would say more handy in terms of sometimes when you're trying to author a new, let's say, function point or a block of code, it can take some of the guesswork of that away. By providing you like what the next block of code could look like, which I think overall, it decreases the amount of mental exhaustion that would cause one to maybe take a break. So I think you do see some general productivity boosts out of it, but neither of these are really, so far from what I'm seeing, able to replace anyone's software engineering function. So that's probably about what I'll cover for today. I think I realized as soon as I started to talk about AI that this is going to take many videos for me to get through, and so I'll have many more videos soon covering the topics.